How you doing, everybody? This is my response to T-Slay 1974 on predictability. I meant to do this yesterday, but quick capture wasn't working, and I was out all today with a fine young lady. So I got home and I saw I had a response from Truslayer asking, or Joshua asking, or saying please do, I think in reference to me doing a video response. And this was something that, he spoke about something that I'd had on my mind quite a bit, because it seemed that a lot, especially in the internet wrestling community, people were associating predictability with poor quality, and unpredictability with, automatically makes it good. Like there's a stigma against something being predictable. And I'm just going to add to a little bit of what Truslayer had said, and I'm guessing this was because a lot of people's criticism of the Elimination Chamber, the Raw one especially, was too predictable. Oliver Scott, I know, said it, and I found that to be, a bit of a crock of shit to say that it was bad because it was predictable. Before the match started, and when Edge came into that match, when Edge came in, I knew he was going to win. But the thing is, it made me more interested in watching the Elimination Chamber that way, because before I didn't know Edge was going to win, because I didn't know Edge was going to be in it. I predicted that Edge was going to win the title either that night back after he lost it in 3 minutes, and I thought that was a good thing to do, or the next night on Raw, and because he went back, because they wouldn't have shown the promo backstage of him and Vicky talking about him winning the title back before the end of the night. So I knew he was going to win it. It would just be the way how. And as Truslayer, and so I've kind of predicted that, and as Truslayer had said, it's not the outcome, it's the journey. And outside, I'll just talk about things outside of wrestling for a moment. There's a series of novels called Tales of the Tory by Leanne Hun, and she's was an Australian children's book writer, and she wrote them, and they're kind of supposed to be like a Lord of the Rings in a more Japanese setting with less mythical creatures and stuff. But there are things like magic and different types of people, just not as over the top as Lord of the Rings, but that kind of epic journey like that. Now in the second book, the main character, I think it's Takeo, his name is. It's been a while since I read it, but he goes to the start of the second book or the end of the first. I'm trying to remember. No, it was the second book. Well, that's beside the point. He goes to a prophet as a part of him becoming a great warrior, because he knew what he wanted to do, and so he knew where he was going. And he went to a prophet, and anyway, on the way to the prophet, which was a part of the plot, and him becoming what we all predicted he was going to be, he was told by the prophet, these are the things that are going to happen to you in your life. And everyone knew it was a 3-book series, and it was Across the Nightingale Floor was the first one, Grass for His Pillow was the second, and Brilliance is the Moon is the third. And they're great reads, but in the second book, you're pretty much told exactly what's going to happen throughout the later half of the second book and third book. But when that happens, it doesn't ruin or doesn't spoil the story. It doesn't make you not want to read the third. If anything, it made me want to read it more, because I wanted to see, how is this going to happen? It doesn't look like this is going to be able to happen. Another thing was, I don't want that to happen, blah, 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 blah. And so you read it, and it turns out to be the outcome. The final outcome, but it's just not the way you expect it to be. As Truslayer said, it was the journey there, which was what made it so enjoyable. And it doesn't really, it may take away a bit from the story. And another thing, I just read Hearts in Atlantis by Stephen King. I do a lot of reading, and I watch a lot of movies. I don't watch much TV outside of wrestling, but I was reading Hearts in Atlantis, and one of the things I found about it, that Stephen King, he tells a really good story. It's just, I'm not going to say anything bad about his writing, because his writing's functional to very good at times. Anyway, you're reading this thing, and he sets up the story, sets up the characters, and you're kind of guessing where this is going to lead. So everything's been set up for you, and in the smack dab in the middle of something else that's going on, he just puts this paragraph, and it pretty much explains the outcome of the story, of what's going to happen. And whenever that happens, whenever a writer does that, whenever something like that happens in a movie, you go, wait, shit, I hope that doesn't happen. Even though you know that's what's going to happen. Even if you're told, it's shoved right into your face and said, that's what's going to happen in this. You're still going to read it. You're still going to watch them. Like, look at how successful the 3 Star Wars prequels were. Everyone went to see that shit. I mean, if everyone knew what the outcome was. Anakin was going to become Darth Vader. He was going to turn evil, but everyone just wanted to see how it happens. And it was the same thing with the Edge and Elimination Chamber, and anything else you do in life. You have a product like TNA, which, and Russo's always, I guess, prided himself on being unpredictable or trying to do unpredictable things. As you see, there's a swerve pretty much every pay-per-view, or there are just too many swerves. Eventually it gets to the point where in trying to be unpredictable, you just become predictable in the first place. And a lot of the times when things aren't predictable, it doesn't make any sense. What would have been the point of Edge in this match? Him being put in the match to begin with. Or what would have been the point of him losing straight away in the first match, then showing the promo with Vicky, if you're not going to have him do something, and then put him in the chamber if you're not going to have him win? Or have John Cena, and everyone was predicting John Cena was going to win, and then they eliminated him straight away, so that would have probably been the second most predictable outcome at the very least, or the most predictable outcome for everybody going in and buying the pay-per-view. They would have thought, well, John Cena's going to win the Raw one, and by taking him out a minute in, it eliminates that kind of predictability factor, but you're giving them something else which is also predictable. I don't think that it's right to put this stigma against something that's predictable as being bad, or even with something that's unpredictable as being bad. It all just, it's all how it's done, It's like talking about movies or music or anything like that. No genre is one better than another. No, anything you do is better than anything else, and because of inherently what it is, rather how it's done itself. Actually, I just thought of something that I saw recently on YouTube here. There was a preview for a shoot with Ole Anderson, and him and his tag team partner, and I'm guessing and he was talking about Harley Race's book, and Harley Race wanted he and his tag team partner to lose against these young guys who nobody really saw had a chance against them. And Ole Anderson said no, that them beating us wouldn't make any sense, and Harley Race said, well, it'll be unpredictable, so it's good. And he said, well, it would be unpredictable for me to go out into the middle of the ring and take a shit right in the center, but, it doesn't mean it's actually good. It just wouldn't make any, unpredictability can make your product better. Or, not better, but more exciting as a whole. But it has to be done at the right time, and it has to be done well. So, yeah, that's that. And people saying the pay-per-view is bad, I think Meltzer and Alvarez agree that it was pretty good, and those two, I'm not saying that their word's absolute, but, they've been watching a lot more wrestling than us. And another thing I wanted to add, with predictability, WrestleMania, everyone knows what's going to happen. Well, pretty much in the main event, at the very least, and most of the card. What's going to happen? The babyface is going to win. Why? Because that's what people want to see. People pay to see a certain outcome a lot of the time. They pay to see the good guy win and the bad guy lose. They don't care. They don't care about it being predictable or not. They already know what the outcome is going to be, but they're paying to see that outcome and how it gets there. I just find, I just hear it a lot. I mean, a lot, not so much on certain forums, wrestling forums, but other ones I hear think, are too predictable, as that just automatically rules it out as being bad. And one last thing, Rey Mysterio and Edge thing, them being the last two people, I found to be actually a very good decision, because if it was Cena versus Edge, people would have, we've already seen that. Plus, with Rey Mysterio, they actually may look like Rey Mysterio might actually pull it out, and having an unpredictable outcome. I mean, but it didn't hurt when Edge won, because it made sense that he would win, because, he was more fresh than Rey was, technically, because he'd been in the ring longer. Less, I mean, and, anyway, I'm done. You get the idea, you get the gist of what I'm saying. It was just a response to Truth Slayer. See ya, bye. Subscribe.